So why are stories important for financial analysts? Anyone can plug numbers into a financial model and produce a forecast. And I think this is where the Valuation Masterclass Bootcamp sets itself apart from other courses related to valuation and forecasting. Investors won't listen to you or read your report if you don't have a good story, even if your forecasts are accurate. And since the beginning of time, human knowledge has spread through stories. The Bible and the Quran are collections of stories. There's a reason. Stories are easy to remember. We all have stories to tell, so start telling those stories. Stories touch emotions. Numbers and evidence rarely arouse emotion. Now, stories have to be relevant and impact the company's earnings. The most crucial input in absolute valuation is getting the free cash flow forecast right. When evaluating the relevance of a story, estimate the impact on the company's free cash flow. I've got a framework that I'm going to bring to you right now that you can use for your story. And this framework maps into the free cash flow drivers. You can see that free cash flow on the left is a function of the NOPAT, the net operating profit after tax, and the amount of investment that the company has to make in the future. So, NOPAT is a function of revenue and costs. When revenue rises and cost stays the same, NOPAT goes up. When revenue rises and costs rise less, NOPAT goes up. And of course, there's capital. The more capital we have to put in a business, generally, that causes our free cash flow to go down. So now we can understand that revenue is price times quantity. So some stories could be pricing power, differentiation, entrance of new competitors, or when it comes to quantity, capacity expansion, new products, imbalances, M&A. When it comes to cost, focus on cost of goods sold, the gap to competitors, the low-cost leadership, backward or forward integration, and how that could impact the COGS. Or operating expenses, consolidation, closure of inefficient factories, or the like. And when it comes to capital, there's two sources of capital that we have to think about. One is net working capital. If net working capital is falling, it would be positive for free cash flow. So it could be increases in payables deferred, decreases in inventory, decreases in receivable collection. Any of those things could be a positive impact on net working capital. And then there's CapEx. It could be over or under investment, and ultimately it's important to understand what the company's doing in its CapEx cycle. This format is something that we'll provide to you so that you can think about, is this a price or a quantity story? So ultimately what we're trying to do is understand the cash flow or the free cash flow. Is it strong, meaning company can achieve double-digit free cash flow growth? Is it moderate, meaning in line with the economy and nominal GDP? Or is it weak? Companies may be reaching saturation. Now, to give you an example on the story, let's look at price times quantity. I want to talk only about that. Is Tesla a price or a quantity story? What do you think? Turn on your microphone and just speak up. Is Tesla a quantity or a price story? I mean, there is some price element. We're not saying that price doesn't matter, but really what they're trying to do is ramp up millions of car production and, of course, drive down the cost of that. What about Facebook? Is that a price or a quantity story? I think Facebook is a price story, and the reason why is because they have already almost every person in the world using Facebook. So they can't get more customers. What they have to do is get more revenue per customer. In other words, they've got to increase their price. And that's why I would call Facebook a price story and Tesla a quantity story. So when you're going to get your assigned company, you want to start to think, is it a price story or a quantity story? So you want to support your conclusions with evidence so the listener finds them credible. You want to represent the interests of a listener by being critical and objective and independent. I'm going to teach you my framework, or at least half of the framework that I use in my courses on becoming a great presenter.